Welcome to the Clark Ford Instant Analysis. Chase Parham, Neal McCready here with you tonight. As second half looked a lot different than the first one, at least from a score standpoint for Ole Miss. Got a lot of work to do both ways, though. 76-41 Ole Miss in a game that they were trailing at the half, was all over the place, was a track meet because of really record-breaking numbers for an FCS team against an SEC team. But we're going to have a lot of coverage at rebelgrove.com, so I'll just come with this, Neal. When we were walking out of here in about an hour or so, what's kind of the one thought that's going to be on your mind?
If they don't improve dramatically on the defensive side of the football with eye discipline, with coming up with some way to get off the field on third down, with producing pressure, with eliminating coverage bust, with winning some one-on-one matchups, there's a lot of stuff. They're going to be embarrassed next Saturday against the number one ranked team in the country.
Yeah, Southern Illinois throws for well over 300 yards. They have 386 total yards in the first half. That's an FCS record against an SEC team. They just matched score for score, and like you said, they took advantage of so many eye discipline issues, from play actions to play fakes to misdirections to counters. Ole Miss was not disciplined. They didn't stay in place. It was catastrophic in the first half. The second half was just not very good. Ole Miss gave up 5 yards a carry in the second half, still gave up 243, I think, total yards overall. So while the score was whatever it was, still from a per-play standpoint, Ole Miss really even needs to improve from that second half number.
There's no question about it. Look, nothing against the kid for Southern Illinois. He threw a lot of balls throughout the game, first quarter too, second quarter, that were kind of floaters. Ill-advised throws, but the receiver was just so damned lucky that not lucky, but open, that he got lucky, is what I was trying to say. Tua Tagovailoa is not going to make those throws. Jared Stidham's not going to make those throws. Joe Burrow's not going to make those throws. Cole Kelly at Arkansas is not going to make those throws. In the second half, they were driving down the field, they being Southern Illinois, about to score again, and he did another one of those floaters that Vernon Dasher stepped in front of it, ran it back for a touchdown, ball game. The receiver was open. Tua Tagovailoa makes that's a completed pass and another touchdown drive. This reaction that the second half was so completely different than the first half is nothing short of propaganda. It is spin. It is not true. Go back and watch it. They still got 5 yards a carry in the second half. These guys rolled to 630, give or take a yard or two of offense. That's inexcusable at the SEC level. I wrote my whole column about this. This is not about talent. We'll find out about talent next week, because next week Alabama's going to bring in an offense that is indeed across the board going to be more talented than Ole Miss's defense. I don't know how much discipline, eye discipline and such, you can fix in 6 days. It's unreal to me. I mean, look, I love Barrett Slee. He's a good friend. Before the season, he talked about Alabama was going to lose to Ole Miss here. I don't see how that's even remotely possible based on what I've seen from Ole Miss's defense the last 2 weeks. That, not even just the first half, that entire performance against Southern Illinois, it should cause soul-searching inside that building over there for quite some time. That's the worst quarterback they'll see outside of whatever Kent State brings in. That's the worst quarterback they'll see the rest of the season. Maybe UL Monroe's is worse. I don't know. There won't be an SEC quarterback who's that bad, who misses those throws. Those throws will be touchdowns. Tua Tagovailoa had, 6 possessions today for Alabama against Arkansas State? They were all touchdowns. Tua Tagovailoa is going to come in here. He probably right now, when he sees that film, can't wait to get here against that defense. And they've got to fix it. They got to quit talking about it. They talk about it a lot. They've got to go fix it. Outside of Momo Sanogo, there wasn't a linebacker that was remotely consistent with his eye discipline. And Alabama's going to look at that, and they're going to pick on it from play 1 Saturday.
On the other side of the ball, Jordan Ta'amu with the third most passing yards in school history. I think 448 is what he ends with. Could have been more, but he needed a lot of those 400, especially early on when it was going back and forth. They took advantage of a pretty bad secondary for Southern Illinois, just an outman secondary against that impressive Ole Miss group of wide receivers. A.J. Brown goes for big numbers, gets a couple touchdowns. They come out relatively healthy, a couple guys limping around, but no big deal. But I did think on top of last week, Braylon Sanders, like last week against Texas Tech, was the only receiver to convert every target into a catch. This week has a huge game in place of DeMarcus Lodge. I think 133, 4 catches and a touchdown. He's given them another huge option on that offensive side of the ball where Scotty Phillips runs for 100, passes that mark again. I know it's against an FCS team, but still Phillips kind of builds on last week. Sanders, though, makes this thing really, really complicated for opposing secondaries.
He does. We don't talk about this enough. Jordan and Braylon worked together a lot last season when Jordan was the backup quarterback to Shea Patterson. They have a chemistry there that's very natural. He's been terrific. He's been good on the outside. He's been good in the slot. He filled in for A.J. a little bit today when A.J. got dinged up a little bit, and you're right, I don't think it's anything serious. But DK Metcalf was once again terrific. You know what you're going to get out of A.J. Brown, and now Braylon Sanders becomes another threat that, on the flip side, when Alabama watches film of Ole Miss's offense, the natural thing is to say, hey, let's bracket Brown, let's bracket Metcalf. Well, now it's hard to do that. You have to kind of pick your poison because they can beat you on the ground with Scotty Phillips. He was once again very good. And then Braylon Sanders, and you're going to get DeMarcus Lodge back in a week. And Ole Miss used its tight ends a lot in the spring, used its tight ends a lot in camp. They really haven't used the tight end this season. I don't remember today whether Cooley or Knox caught a pass. I know they only caught one combined last week, so they're saving that part of the offense. So there's a lot there to work with offensively. That will be fun to watch. This offense going against Alabama's defense, as good as it is, it's not real experienced in the secondary. There are some matchups that you can exploit against Alabama. But, man, this thing, Chase, to me, it all comes back to, can Ole Miss's defense improve enough to at least make it entertaining? Can they improve enough where Ole Miss's offense can use all of its weapons, can use its entire repertoire, can use the running game some, can use the tight end? Because if you fall down 21-0, 21-3, 28-7, that kind of thing against Alabama, where they get to start pinning all those pass rushers back and just turn them loose against Jordan Ta'amu or any other quarterback, we've seen what happens. They're 55-5 in their last 60 games, a stat that you provided to me. 55-5 is no fluke. They're hard to beat. Ole Miss fans know exactly how hard it is to beat them. They don't give games away, so you've got to be very good in all aspects. You've got to be very focused. Ole Miss has the one thing you have to beat Alabama. You have to have a very good quarterback. They do. Jordan Ta'amu is terrific. But, man, you've got to have more on that defensive side than they've got. And that's the real soul-searching challenge. I mean, I'm being repetitive, but going into this next week, defensively, it's about avoiding an absolute embarrassment.
We'll flip the page to Alabama tomorrow, but for tonight, Ole Miss 76, Southern Illinois 41. Ole Miss easily covers the spread in this one against the FCS team. So for Neal McCready, I'm Chase Parham. This is the Clark Ford Instant Analysis.